Welcome everybody to Mud Flood was Armageddon. The Mud Flood was Armageddon. Don't let them tell you anything else unless they're willing to debate you in a fair and honest way. I debate from the position that I only take the Old and New Testament of the Holy Scriptures as scripture. So that's a problem for some people. You have to have your own ideas. I'm going to show a disclaimer. This is like the world we live in. You have to do this they're going to make you jump through hoop. How much in our world is there to be afraid of? Well, we'll check my algorithm. I mean, I'm thinking of plasma events, imminent nuclear war, war in Syria, war in Lebanon, war in Gaza, some other wars out there. And, talking about the mud flood. Everybody's talking about the mud flood. Everybody knows it now, but it's time I want to tell the truth that this is a judgment. Nothing is going to stop that. This is God judging the countries and Satan's timeline. Satan is having his way too right now. It's that encompassing about that will continue. That's what I want to do is this is not a time to be afraid of anything but being blotted out of the book of life. Live off grid, live on grid. What's for sale, what's not for sale. But I have to close out these tabs. I talked about some of these things today. I thought for a half-hour video talking about the Judaizers, and for me, they're condescending answers. I'm sure they think I'm the same way, but they're drawing a guy out from 10 years ago. King James only version that looked like the guy that was on Lost and Flat Earth. And oh boy, everything Flat Earth was good then. These guys, they got a better idea. You should follow the law and circumcise your children and argue about when's the new moon officially.
As well. The notion that Paul condemns the biblical calendar in Galatians 4:10 contradicts his explicit endorsement of it elsewhere in Scripture.
They look past the fact that the Bible teaches the Jews were always going to be under the law. The Gentiles, never being under the law, were never required to keep those laws. They had laws they had to repent from, but again, it'll always go back to the same weak arguments.
Not preclude what the immediate context of Galatians 4:10 clearly says. Paul did not oppose the law in general. He opposed the misuse of the law. He opposed looking to the law and circumcision as the basis of one's justification.
No, he goes through in the book of Acts and the book of Galatians, destroying the Pharisees that went to Galatia without the apostles' permission and started telling them that they have to circumcise their children and keep the whole law of Moses. And that was not the case. You're the one that is an itchy ear. Look, you got a globe loving. They're all the same. Okay, now let's go. I want to go through these pictures because I told myself I've got to get rid of these tabs. First, there's a good thumbnail. I went with that. I stepped on the G in Gentiles a little bit. Hope that the Freemasons are offended. That's the best I could come up with on and that was going to be the thing for today. Look at what an atheist posted. A daily reminder for my fellow faith smashers. They're not, well, they're like you used to be, I hope. The Rear Window. I remembered the symbol, and I had written about the symbol. Could be a symbol for a percussion instrument or a symbol, sign and the symbol. So I looked up that. That's where that song, Que Sera, Sera, came from, where Doris Day would continue, whatever it'll be, it'll be. And the footage, in one of the reviews, I just noticed it said that Hitchcock draws the footage out a bit too long at 119 minutes. I don't like to get into the numbers, but it's a sign of the time. It's what they do. I made a picture of it there. I used it. An assassin whispered that somebody's going to get murdered when the cymbals crash. They know the secret. There's nothing she can do but scream, and it worked. Woo! Tension. But I searched Alfred Hitchcock's symbol, started this movie. Adonai, see here? Adonai, Greek concordance number 136, is not Yahweh. Now, the Berean Bible Hub, Bible study, it's a preterist site, but it's normally pretty good. But I wonder why they decided to do that. Say Adonai was Yahweh. That is not Yahweh. That is Adonai. I think I have that pulled up. We'll look at it later. What is sustainability? It's the aquifers, regulated, unconfined aquifers. This is something that was in not my class, but it sure seems like it. Huh. The first television show to incorporate a laugh track was Hank McCune's show in 1950. Didn't have a live audience, but they've been perfecting how to get us to think, it would seem, for some time. It's 1950. TV, believe it or not, parents then were worried about, I don't want my child staring at a screen for a half hour, an hour a day. Now, even as like, oh, I was a Christian leader and I gave my children the best cell phones. We were going to stay in touch, and somebody else was too. They wanted to reach out and touch somebody. Somebody received a U.S. patent on improvements. Okay, this is that one where hemp could have saved the world. It's the body parts. The Lord did this. He used me. We're tracing them. I've got a rock soaking in hydrochloric acid right now. It's muriatic, which means it's been stepped on. It's diluted, of course. Ooh, it's stinky. We'll go over some of these things here tonight. What has pneuma? Now look at, really, you ask, what has pneuma from Spirit God? And it says pneuma refers to the Trinity. That is just simply atrocious. That is not something a computer should pretend to know. Power went out. That's a little old now. Esther, we're going to have to go through some of these things and see where it's at, what's happening, so I can close out these tabs. It's simple. 3 times it says, Gentiles, believers, we've written our decision. You do not have to follow the law. Put those rumors to bed. Abstain from food sacrificed from idols. Uno, that's number 1, from blood, from the meat of strangled animals, from sexual immorality. Well, that sounds like good advice. It says it once in the Bible. It says it here's twice. Write to them, tell them to abstain from food polluted by idols, sexual immorality, the meat of strangled animals, and blood. Letter to the Gentiles. People went out among you. It has come to our attention. Some, and it says earlier, it was the Pharisees, went out without our authorization and unsettled you. We've gone over all the evidence. We all agreed to sit in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses with the approved and beloved Barnabas and Paul. Again, you must abstain from food sacrificed to idols, from blood, from the meat of strangled animals, and from sexual immorality. It seemed good to the one God, to the apostles, not to tell the Gentiles. That's what it means by burden you with anything beyond. You can tell me whatever you want, but I'm stuck on, there's nothing beyond these essential requirements for the Gentiles. Yes, Paul kept the law. He shaved his head. He was a Jew. Did you know that? 2 Timothy chapter 1, when was the great falling away? You know that everyone in the province of Asia has departed me. They said, bye-bye, Paul. We like this other gospel. It makes my wife more happy. She can pour out drink offerings to the Queen of Heaven. She's only doing it because somebody's letting her. Oh, I mean, she can do anything she wants. Who am I? Didn't receive it from any man, nor was I taught it. Rather, I received it by revelation from Jesus Christ. It's another gospel if they want you to get circumcised and do anything. And again, you can read the Bible, and it's now that you know it's a flat earth nation of the golden age past, every verse has those hints. Verse 3, grace and peace to you from God, Father, Lord Jesus Christ, who gave himself for our sins to rescue us from the present evil age, not some age way down the road. I'm closing tabs. Grace to you, peace from God, Father of us. Even the Lord. This is translated even too. Namely, and it could be what it is. Peace from God, Father, and the Lord Jesus. That's who it is. All of those other added words in there from our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ, you know, to make it sound like there's a Trinity. There's not. You're going to have to find it somewhere else. So here's a word. Obviously, it means the coastlands or an island. Magog is there on an island, on a coastland. All the inhabitants of these coastlands. And this is all Ezekiel. Huh. Well, there's Isaiah 66, right when I said that. Almost all. So this is a one-time usage in Isaiah 11. And from the islands to the sea, from Cush, Pathros, Egypt, from Assyria. Whew, what? In that day, the Lord will reach out his hand a second time to bring back. He's going to reach out his hand a second time and recover a remnant. He's going to bring back a remnant of his people in the distant coastlands. I didn't know what that meant. I guess it's where Magog was. Like I said, I'm just here to, these were getting to me. So when did this happen? On that day, the root of Jesse will stand as a banner for the peoples. The nations will seek him or must have sought him, one or the other, and his place of rest will be glorious. On that day, the Lord will extend his hand. Here we go again, the second time to recover that remnant. He will raise a banner for the nations. Gather the exiles of Israel, who will collect the scattered of Judah from the same place that we're going to get encompassed about when we get attacked. I know some good places to hide, man. It's where they always find the people last. Jealousy of Ephraim. Sorry, you British Israelites, he's not your hero. Then the jealousy of Ephraim will depart, and the adversaries of Judah will be cut off. Ephraim will no longer envy Judah, nor will Judah harass Ephraim. It's kind of like, knock it off, you guys, or I will turn this car around. Scorching wind, sweep his hand over the Euphrates. We know how mysterious that is. Split it into 7 streams. For men to cross with dry sandals. I'm closing. In that day, okay, so I'm going back here, stand as a banner. Huh. Well, that must have been when I wanted to look up the islands. And and Magog was in there. A lot to go over here. What's this one? That was the Magog thing. Stepped on that. There goes the big surprise. The man who knew too much to use symbols in movies trained us to some extent by how much, that's your thing, Had a little time, got into it. Looked like, that Alfred Hitchcock was into it. This was a remake. He made this movie before. He just spiced it up with a little bit of that cold world. He had one note to play at how many holes does it take to fill the Albert Hall? Well, that's where this movie was set. And when he hit that, the assassin was going to shoot and hopefully cover the sound of it. I guess it was a bit over, it's just simplicity. She was one of the girls in the movie. When you search the movie, she comes up and it looks like she's one of those girls that was a boy and got famous in the British TV for being in everything. And there she is. She knows all that Shakespeare. So, it's just weird. What's going on over there in England anyway? Oh, I said it. Oh, she was in the Harry Potter movie. She was a painting. There is a Juarez cartel. There's a couple of Juarez cartels. And I know some people that are visiting Chihuahua a couple months. I wish I could go, but I can't. This is the one that they're making a big deal out of in the news right now. Hlesko. They did not start theirs. until 2009. So it's never too late to diversify. It says they could make over $12 billion with a B. Nobody wants to hear the Austin Powers joke one more time about 1 million. It's billions now. Look at our budget. You know, it used to be $1 billion was a big thing. And then when Donald Trump made the COVID into warp speed right after he did the Space Force, they gave everybody $1 trillion twice. It said, well, now that you gotta lock it down, because bad disease, not the disease of the immigration. Oh man, I don't want to get political. I really don't, but it's hard not to, isn't it? I had the tab pulled up. I was talking to somebody here about it because he's visiting them. Okay, it's a weird picture, man. That's all I thought. I don't think it's very big. I'll have to blow it up. Huh. What do you got going here? What is this? You got a gun? No, I'm kidding. But I don't know. What is it? It's a party for children on New Year's Eve. This is how they used to do New Year's Eve for children so that they would be used to it. Lower the clock, and I don't know if they sang Hail the Old Lang Syne. Isaiah 42, starting in verse 15. I will turn the rivers into dry land, drain the marshes. I will lead the blind by a way they did not know. I will guide them on unfamiliar paths. I will turn darkness into light before them and rough places into level ground. These things I will do for them, and I will not forsake them. But those who trust in idols and say to molten images, you are our gods, will be turned back in utter shame. Oh, yikes. Lord was pleased for the sake of his righteousness to magnify his law and make it glorious. But this is a people plundered and looted, all trapped in caves or imprisoned in dungeons. They have become plunder with no one to rescue them, and loot with no one to say, send them back. Who among you will pay attention to this? Who will listen and obey? Who gave Jacob up for spoil and Israel to the plunderers? Was it not the Lord against whom we have sinned? They were unwilling to walk in his ways, and they talked a good talk about walking the walk, obeying his law. But in the next verse, he poured out his furious wrath. I would say they failed in worshiping these other gods. And I don't know. Hey, who hasn't, it rhymes with horny. Who hasn't? But these guys made it a choice of sin, of like, okay, where's my wife? I need a wife. I want to raise a family. Then it'll be okay. Instead, it's just like the girl saying "do me" and the guy saying "okay," like the rest of the world. Oh, no wonder this whole world is not atomic, but flames. Flames are coming. Look at me close out these tabs. Have you not heard? I decided this long ago. Long ago, I planned it. And now I am making it happen. I planned for you to crush Starfort cities into heaps of rubble. Wow. Again, a reminder. of their world, of their cisterns. You've seen the pictures. It's almost like we're refusing to say it could have been in the Bible time, you know? Chariots have ascended to the heights of the mountain, remote peaks of Lebanon. This guy cut down the tallest cedars, the finest of its cypresses. I have reached its furthest heights, the densest of its forests. We know they're big, big wells, and drunk foreign waters with the soles of my feet. I have dried up all the streams of Egypt. Oh, this was that, you know. Therefore, their inhabitants, devoid of power, are dismayed, ashamed. They are like plants in the field, tender green shoots, grass on the rooftop, scorched before it is grown. Ow, I will put my hook in your nose and my bit in your mouth. I will send you back. Remember, they mentioned that nobody will said, send them back. This will be a sign to you, O cistern building, well digging, star fort builder. So he talks about this year, you're going to do it, second year, third year. Uh-oh. Verse 31. And the surviving remnant of the house of Judah will again take root below and bear fruit above. He's going to put his hand out a second time, but that's not going to save the. This is Isaiah. The whole Zerubbabel thing, Hezekiah, Isaiah, Jeremiah. It's all about that first destruction with the Jeremiah, and then they talks about the rebuilding, and then there's that Armageddon. Reach out his hand a second time. I could be reading into it because the Bible doesn't say this is about Armageddon. Isaiah 42:9. What? I'm there. Oh, I never read that. Behold, the former things are come to pass, and new things I do declare. Before they spring up, I will tell you of them. You know, even 42 chapters into Isaiah, chapter 66 is a long way off. And they're all, it is so packed. When you just right out the gate, from the jump street, as the hip people like to say, you know, we're talking about, oh heavens, alas, sinful nation. Boom, boom, boom. Your land is desolate. Your cities are burned with fire. Foreigners devour your fields. Your offers are meaningless. Bring your worthless offerings no more. Your incense is detestable. He hates your new moons and appointed feasts. You become a burden to me because they weren't doing it right. They never did it right. But line upon line, precept upon reason, reasoning together, there is salvation. If you are willing and obedient, you will eat the best of the land. Now, this corruption, it just goes on and on. You think it's over? It's like, okay, we got to build back up to before we get into some more mocking of the people. Well, maybe not. There's a day of reckoning coming. For you have abandoned your people, the house of Jacob, because they are filled with what? Influences from the east. They are soothsayers like the Philistines. They strike hands with the children of foreigners. They're, you know, gold, silver treasures, horses, no limit to their chariots. Go to the rocks, hide in the dust from the terror of the Lord, from the splendor of his majesty. The proud look of man will be humbled. The day of the Lord of hosts. Again, high towered, fortified walls, stately vessels. We know what that world was like. Well, did God judge their women? How did they dress? How many points of fashion do you have? And I'm not going to go through every verse. We'll end it here when we, you know, how many? If you were a woman in fashion, do you have to have a brooch? Do you have to have your hair pinned back? If so, what is it pinned back with? When you go to the powder room, what's in your bag? We always wanted to know, because the daughters of Zion back then, haughty, walking with their heads held high, wanton eyes. I kind of get a feeling I know what that means. Prancing, skipping as they go, jingling the bracelets on their ankles. The Lord will bring sores on the heads of the daughters of Zion, and the Lord will make their foreheads bare. In that day, the Lord will take away their finery, the aforementioned anklets, also headbands, crescents, tiara, their pendants, bracelets, veils, headdresses, ankle chains, one of my personal favorites, sashes, their perfume bottles and charms, their signet rings and nose rings, festive robes, capes, cloaks, purses, mirrors, linen garments, tiaras. Oh, wait, what? Shawls. Instead of that yummy perfume, stench. Instead of a belt, keep your pants, cinch your pants with the rope. Baldness. Yikes. Look at me, I'm closing tabs. Maybe there's hope that I will get through a lot of it. Hey, I've got myself some float stone. I soaked it in acid. It is copper, but it has some sort of a crystalline form on it. There's some float stones. I think they paint them to keep that patina so that it'll show it. Mine came real clean with some acid. But float stone, copper, they're body parts. The drum kits, I mentioned this before. I wanted to mention it again. It's all brand new. Who would have thought that everything, it's all the same plan? Look at it. This is a drum kit. Movies were popular when this was invented. Let me go back to the beginning. Drum kit, snare drum, and even this has two toms. This is an advanced kit. This is not the 1960s that the Beatles started with. It wasn't anything like this guy from Japan who's a drumming machine. They don't use that style. That snare drum does go out of style. Modern, brand new. Everything's new. That's not new. I talked about the hi-hats, electric. It's all new. It started with that. And eventually, they used to have a person playing the cymbals, but then they could save money by not having them. When the Jimi Hendrix, the Beatles, and those guys, 5 pieces. And look at the size of that. And this was an expensive get-up, I'm sure. But that's it. Everything's new. You can watch the transformation in the gimmicks because they're reinventing it. The 1860s, percussionists started combining multiple drums into a kit. Bass drum, snare drum, cymbals, and other percussion instruments were all struck with handheld drumsticks. Drummers in musical theaters appeared in stage shows where the budget for picked orchestras was often limited due to insufficient amount of money. So they couldn't purchase a rent a full percussionist team. So I think they said somewhere when they invented the kick drum, and then it put out 10,000 people in one out of work. It has always been a trap to where eventually everyone is, even the people that go to college so that they can learn how to properly say, would you like some fries with that order? They're going to be stuck going like, dang, nobody wants to buy hamburgers anymore. Closing that out. It's all new. Played you a sound of a drum. In that day, you looked to the weapons of the house of the forest, and you saw that the breaches of the city of David were many. You collected waters of the lower pool, and you counted the houses of Jerusalem, and you broke down the houses to fortify the wall. You made a reservoir between the two wells for the water of the old pool, but you did not look to him who did it, or see him who planned it long ago. Behold, joy and gladness, killing the oxen, slaughtering the sheep, eating the flesh, drinking the wine. Let us eat, drink, for tomorrow we die. Are you sure? You sure? The Lord of hosts has revealed himself in my ears. Surely this iniquity will not be atoned for you until you die. What have you to do here? And whom have you here, that you have cut out here a tomb for yourself? You who cut out a tomb on the height and carve a dwelling for the height in the rock. I just like it when he goes, you who are going to be called, you, that guy who cuts out a rock. You who cut out a tomb in the height, carve a dwelling in the rock for yourself. Behold, the Lord will hurl you away violently. Oh, you strong man. He will seize firm hold on you, whirl you around and around, and throw you like a ball. Now, the Bible knows what a ball is. Into a wide land. There you shall die, and there shall be your glorious chariots, your shame of your master's house. Wow. Oh, man. Nobody wants that. Okay, so you built the reservoir between the two walls of the water. I'm going to see if this talks about it being a river or a wall or a canal. What exactly is it? Between the two walls. Okay. So that's all talking about the same thing. What is this word? It's a wall of protection. The waters unto their own right hand. You know, the waters in the starfort always seem to be a moat or water running through it. They're going to be as protected as they can, but you can only hold out for so long. Fortified walls and canal walls, I think. Two walls you made of reservoir. The old pool of water long ago. Well, you didn't look to its maker, for to him who fashioned it long ago. Well, maybe we should read this in a different context. Hezekiah, he counted the houses in Jerusalem, tore them down, strengthened the wall, built a reservoir for the ancient waters of the ancient pools, but you did not look to the one. Okay, so the one made the ancient pools and the other cities, or consider him who planned it long ago. Are we reading chapter 22 right? This is what the Lord of hosts says. Go say to Shebna, steward in charge of the palace. That's way up there. What are you doing here, and who authorized you to carve out a tomb for yourself here, to chisel out a tomb in the height and cut your resting place in the rock? Look, Almighty man, the Lord is about to shake you violently. He will take hold of you, roll you into a ball, and sling you into a wide land. There you will die, and there your glorious chariots will remain, a disgrace to the house of your master. I will remove you from office, and you will be ousted from your position. And his sons later on kill him. That's this guy. That's at least what I think. It's this guy. He did it. On that day, I will summon my servant Eliakim, son of Hilkiah. I will clothe him with your robe and tie your sash around him. I will put your authority in his hand, and he will be a father to the dwellers of Jerusalem and to the house of Judah. I will place on his shoulder the key to the house of David. You never see the key on somebody's shoulders. Isn't that interesting? What he opens, no one can shut, and what he shuts, no one can open. They try to make Peter sound like he's King David or something. Verse 23. I will drive him like a peg into a firm place, and he will be a throne of glory for the house of his father. So they will hang on him all the glory of his father's house, the descendants and the offshoots, all the lesser vessels from the bowls to every kind of jar. Now, this thing, think about that peg, people used to, it's in a firm place. They've used it for years. And that day declares the Lord of hosts, the peg driven into a firm place will give way. It will be sheared off and fall, and the load upon it will be cut down. Indeed, the Lord has spoken. Well, I didn't really get any more here out of that than, you counted the houses of Jerusalem, tore them down, strengthened the wall. You built a reservoir. We know those are big between the walls for the water of the ancient pool. Okay, so you build it. The ancient pool was already there, but you did not look to the one who made it or consider him who planned it long ago. Now, the one, is that implied? Of old, the two walls, its maker. I don't see where it says the one. Him who made it unto the maker. God made the firmament. Well, that could be one of the times the implication is there. He created, it is a creator long ago. Wonder what we get out of that. From a distance, afar off. Okay. Like I said, there's a lot to go over. And it's not only humans that are albinos, photophobia. It's humans are warned about it in the Bible. Congenital, inherited, comes from your parents. We all have it. It means white. And in the Bible, I've made that argument that it's white. It means white skin or white hair. If you have that, you're supposed to be separate. I'm making the connection that in this world, it seems strange that somehow we believe it is supposed to be opposite world in every way, except that white people were in power then and white people are still in power now, giving them every reason to argue for evolution because that's what they want it to be. I showed these pictures. Definitely would be, if you have two together, their odds would be much more. Not too many pictures. What is this guy talking about? Who did invent white people?
Until white people needed slaves. In a 1684 French journal article, Francois Bernier used a curious term to describe his theory on human taxonomy. The article was titled Nouveau division de la terre pares differentes especies ou races la habitante. Now, I don't speak white people very well, so that's like as close to French I can get. But it translates to a new division of Earth by the different species or races which inhabit it. In 1776, Frederick Blumenbach's On the Natural Varieties of Mankind, that's the name of the book, created 5 different divisions of humanity. And to prove that his division was superior, Blumenbach connected the Portuguese thieves to the ancient Greeks who stole their knowledge from Africa. He theoretically united the incompetent English colonizers and the Roman conquerors under one genetically superior race called the Caucasian race.
Who thought he was going to say white? So that guy invented it in a book. A little bit more from, I kind of like it. He's a little sarcastic. I mean, but they were kept as slaves and chattel, and people they can't be tamed. They're not human. Some people still believe that. So don't they? Come on.
I mean, we just call it slavery. Now, I'm not telling you this to scare you. I'm just letting you know what kind of people we're dealing with. Now, you might be thinking that the people who kidnapped us and brought us here are Portuguese, and technically you're right. But see, there's no way to understand this unless you know how they think. See, when we were building kingdoms and studying science and medicine and art, they were going through this thing called the Dark Ages, where less than 20%.
Oh, so what do we have here? The educated black people still believe in the regular history. They're still going to do it that way with the Atlantic slave trade. Yeah, I know that their indigenous blacks and whites were everywhere, but it's going to be, how can it be a race war? And the Freemasons, they do have the Prince Hall Masons. Mexico wouldn't be where it was unless it was, invaded by Europeans, a Habsburg king put on the throne with the blessing and permission of the Mexican Freemason lodges. Same with Texas. And then they were given, Sam Austin, those guys got land grants the same as they were giving the Mexican Freemasons. This is a trap. You're not going to make America great again. I want you to stop it. Hey, Joe. Now, this is happening. They did this to you or people you love. They were kicking people off, giving people warning and strikes for saying ivermectin, which now is not banned anymore. Of course, I don't give medical advice or financial advice. I give what the Bible says advice. Go ahead, Dr. McMillan.
And that's where I think the historical parallel lies. And as I take you through this process of reflecting on that, I would like your opinion as to whether or not I am right in terms of making these kinds of associations. So let's just remember that I am taking history to utilize an understanding of what happened in the past to see whether or not we could actually have a similar kind of event occurring now or in the future. So let's start at the beginning here. So the person who did the breakthrough, Dr. Widukind Lenz in Germany, he was a pediatrician and he was into genetics. And he raised the alarm in 1961.
Oh, so Dr. McMillan and others are proving that the embalmers and others and the statistics are, we have something to worry about. Doctors are ignoring them. So he's going back to a medicine that was invented in Germany. And when children started being born with no legs and they were dying and they were born blind, and this was only one of the medicines that was affecting, and it was a genetic. Not everybody had it. So the doctors dug in and said, no, that can't be it. So what was this? Give me the breakdown a little bit more because we can't watch the whole thing.
At that time, there was an assumption of innocence for pharmaceuticals because they were looking at medicines as being inherently safe if they were approved and widely available. Huge faith in science. Companies marketed modern miracles, and doctors often trusted that rigorous testing had been done. And the mental model didn't include the fact that approved drugs could cause harm. Now, we are at a point where that's not the case in terms of the pharmaceutical industry, but that it has largely been the case when we look at what has happened up till now with regards to how we have approached vaccination. And if there was a model historically that would fit, it would be that one, not necessarily the pharmaceutical industry. Many people do have their issues with them. Additionally, at the time, there was a problem with scientific culture. It was quite rigid in its thinking. And because of how medicine was in terms of hierarchies, people followed the rules. The person most senior had the authority. You know,
Look at the last one. Most doctors looked for genetic or infectious explanations because that's what they were taught to look for. And that's how come this last one, they didn't even try. They knew they shouldn't have put those people on ventilators.
can look at things. How do you know that this is actually relevant? And so when you have that kind of approach, it's very difficult without big data to be able to make sense of patterns. And similarly today, this is not necessarily even being seen by doctors because the kind of work that embalmers do makes them uniquely positioned that only them can see this. Nobody else would, because who else would be flushing out the whole of the bloodstream? Nobody else does that, not even in an autopsy. So this is something very, very unique to embalmers. So if they see something, really, there is no good reason that you would.
Don't you think that's a good point? Nobody else does it. They see, you know what, hey, look what is in the blood. So they have these excuses where they don't address the problem. And they did it in the 50s and they're still doing it and acting like it's an accident. They're acting like it's an accident.
Therefore have a child with this. And that wasn't the case. They didn't realize there was a very specific window when fetal limb formation was occurring that became disrupted. And similarly with embalmer's clots, the clotting dysfunction does not happen directly. There doesn't seem to be any clear pattern with it. And this is part of the reason why it's so difficult to see. The fact that it is happening, as I said very quickly, the patient that the doctor told me about, it was about a 3 to 4 day trajectory where he deteriorated and died. And there didn't seem to be anything abnormal question as to whether or not it's connected. Now, we don't know, but it is one of the big questions. And so that fear of actually having to look at that
And I want us to imagine if things are half as bad as some people say.
World. In the eyes of the occult, this is the true nature of certain dynasties. They are not symbols of nobility. They are living altars. And with this in mind, we now reveal the 13 families believed to be the earthly vessels of infernal power.
Yeah, they did it. They got all the money. And they've been propped up in history as they're the ones that did it.
Web continues, and its next thread leads us straight to Belial, the demon of lawless dominion. The House of Windsor, formerly the House of Saxe-Coburg and Goth,
The House of Honky. Here's another House of Honky.
set in modern history. Critics and conspiracy theorists often point to a pattern: scandals buried, allies protected, truths distorted beneath
Yeah.
layers of protocol. The firm, as the royal family is known internally, is not a family in the emotional sense. It is a mechanism, cold,
Yeah. The Habsburgs, they're bad. Here's another group up claiming to, they're honkies. Hey, we're Jewish. Oh, sure you are.
occultism. He surrounded himself with alchemists, astrologers, and sorcerers, including John Dee and Edward Kelly, who were said to perform demonic invocations and even attempt to create a homunculus.
It's the opposite of the world, right? The Rockefellers, these guys did it. Lilith, honkies, white people, opposite world. They were lepers and now they're the rulers. They're entirely human and they're not the unclean ones. You are.
The demon most often associated with their lineage is Lilith, the first woman, the first rebel,
See, they
and,
try to sex it up,
the mother of demons. According to Jewish mysticism, Lilith was created before Eve.
Yeah, either you can find that in the honky loving extra biblical books. Hey, are these guys white enough for you?
In occult symbolism, Moloch represents any power structure that demands innocent blood to maintain control. By this logic, the Romanov dynasty, which ruled Russia for centuries, fits the archetype disturbingly well.
Archetype, my archetype. Hey, who are these guys?
Draco, meaning the dragon or the devil. His son, Vlad III.
You see this? This is how they want. They don't want to just kill people. They want them to suffer. They enjoy it. You know how they do this to whole armies? They trick them into joining an army and then they get betrayed by their leader for a compact or a covenant or a treaty. And then they just kill them and they go, oh, hey, way to go, Vlad the Destroyer, the Impaler.
III inherited the name and the symbolism. Dracula literally means son of Draco, or son of the dragon. In demonological terms, this could easily be read as son of Leviathan.
We don't need made up things to scare you. Like they could be Nephilim clown demons. Face the fact, we can be saved, white people, but not if we believe that it was manifest destiny and this is Satan's plan and it's God's judgment.
And produced figures of wealth, seduction, and blood-soaked ambition. Within the occult narrative, their demonic counterpart is Azazel. According to the Book of Enoch, Azazel was one of the chief watchers.
Yeah, and people will fight me to the death. It should be in the Bible. Nobody would ever believe that because it's so unscriptural. John Astor, give guns and booze to the Indians to fight the Russians for you so you can sell beavers?
Especially in the writings of Fritz Springmeier, who lists them among the 13 Illuminati bloodlines. The Astors are seen not merely as tycoons, but as veiled sorcerers of the elite. Their corresponding infernal patron is Astaroth. In demonology, Astaroth is a Grand Duke of Hell, depicted as a crowned angel riding a dragon and holding
There are people in power that wanted to stay this way. The Collins, really?
Beelzebub and Astaroth. Though the family name has faded from mainstream awareness, their monuments remain: hotels, neighborhoods, cultural institutions. And for those who read between the lines, their legacy isn't just wealth, it's a lineage enthroned beneath the city. Even their tragedies, family suicides, mental illness, disappearances, are interpreted as the price paid to Baal. Blood still control the Vatican and global systems of power. The Orsini are placed at the top, alongside the Aldobrandini and Farnese. But while their public face was pious, their alleged allegiance is said to lie with Baal or Belphegor, demons of deception,
Wow.
temptation.
Let's get a little more. The Bible. Isaiah 66:3, he who slaughters an ox is like one who kills a man. He who sacrifices a lamb, like one who breaks a dog's neck. He who presents a grain offering, like one who offers pig's blood. He who makes a memorial offering of frankincense, like one who blesses an idol. These have chosen their own way, and their soul delights in their abominations. Verse 4. I also will choose harsh treatment for them and bring their fears upon them. Because when I called, no one answered. When I spoke, they did not listen, but they did what was evil in my eyes and chose that in which I did not delight. Now, what is leprosy again? Your skin turns white. It also could get a boil, a white swelling on the skin. And that if it turned the hair white, like an albino's hair, then you're a leper. You're unclean, wear dirty clothes and say, no, 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 not for me. Pronounce them unclean. Wow. You don't even have to you don't have to isolate him for another week to test it. You just know already his hair turned white. He's clean if they wait a while. But whenever raw flesh appears on someone, he will be unclean. When the priest sees the raw flesh, he must pronounce him unclean. The raw flesh is unclean. It is a skin disease. But if the raw flesh changes, turns leprous or white, that's what the word means, is unclean. It is a skin disease. But if the raw flesh changes and turns white, he must go to the priest. The priest will re-examine him. And if the infection has turned white, the priest is to pronounce the infected person clean. He is clean. So it must be healing. When the boil appears on someone's skin and it heals, and a white swelling or reddish white spot develops where the boil is, he must present himself. The priest shall examine it, and if it appears to be beneath the skin and the hair in it has turned white, unclean. And there's all types of things, where you can get oh my goodness, it's turning white. Well, if it busts out pussy and then gets healed, you're okay. As long as you didn't have the hair turn white and it stays white. Oh, if there's no white hair in the spot, isolate him 7 days and then say, it's okay. It's a scar from the burn. Don't worry. But the other things, it's like white, man. Laban, it means white. White. If it was a white sheep, it was Laban's. If it was spotted, it was Jacob's. White from milk. So there's not really a word for leper. It just means white. But we know when they're talking about the unclean ones, they're white. But lepers, there was a leper that was a king of Judah. He will judge between many peoples and arbitrate for strong nations far and wide. Then they will beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation will no longer take up sword against nation, and nor will they train anymore for war. There's going to be a restoration. I don't see it going down with the Gentiles getting on board with what they call Jerusalem and Israel today over there in the Middle East, and just saying whatever they want to do, it's okay with God. I think that's a dangerous idea. So I did look at the 1,000 in Revelation and the 1,000 in Hebrew, thousands, the leader over thousands. And you can see the New Testament and the Old Testament. Like you can't use the worn out preterist argument. It's the cattle on 1,000 hill. There's words for myriads, multitudes, and then there's words for thousands in the New Testament and in the Old Testament. It means 1,000. It's the same term used in the New Testament to denote the same numerical value as in Revelation 20. And since that's the same word in Revelation 20 verses 8 or 9, that he sees the dragon, that ancient serpent who's the devil, and bound him for 1,000 years. These words always mean 1,000. So if you don't know that, and you've heard me tell you 100 times and show you, then you don't want to believe that. You want to say, no, 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 because that will mean he's right. And eventually I might say, honey, maybe you should consider wearing a head bonnet or a head covering of some sort. But anyway, we got to move on to the scripture of Micah chapter 3, verse 3. Yes, you eat my people's flesh, strip off their skin, break their bones, chop them up like meat for the cooking pot. Then they will cry out, beg the Lord for help, but he will not answer them. At that time, he will hide his face from them because of the evil that they have done. Warning, warning. Nobody wants a warning. Micah 3:11. The heads of the governments, its heads give judgment for a bribe. Its priests teach for a price. Its prophets practice divination for money. Yet they lean on the Lord and say, is not the Lord in the midst of us? No disaster shall come upon us. They even think they should be able to choose Barabbas and horrifically murder the King of Glory and wash their hands and say, let his blood be on us and our children. Well, that ended the Jews. Those two generations were it. 70 AD, no more lineage to Aaron, no more proof that anybody's can offer a sacrifice. Oh, I remember I wanted to mention how many people, they're the ones going on vacation, being set up. They're in the Freemason sons of people that are in big business. Just in name only, they got a job. They're on 4 different committees for the government, maybe. Just how they get paid, ghost employees. But if you do it at your local fish market, you're going to jail. Ecclesiastes 3:21. Who knows if the spirit of man rises upward and the spirit of the animal descends to the earth? Spirit, again. Evolution. You think that only the humans had the spirit? That's not what the Bible talks about. The spirit, the ruah. Who knows that the animal has a spirit? And the spirit of the animal? Cattle? Animals of the 7 beasts? And it mentions all living things that have life. They have the ruah and the spirit, the wind. So the spirit of the Lord, Judges 6:3-4. Second Chronicles. And this is something an animal has. Do you want to take that chance? Do you? I'm trying to warn you that I don't think it's worth it. The pneuma. Everybody always thought we had a spirit, all the religions of the world, until humanism, until the modern age where everything is gay. I'm going to close this out, but I'm going to close it out from the Drudge Report. That picture is still up. When I first saw this, I saw a fuzzy picture and it said Stephen Miller. But when I first saw it, I thought it said Stephanie Miller because that's what I've been used to. Anytime there's going to be a new top contender for a national security thing, it was going to be a girl. But I guess they're focusing on, is that Stephen Miller? Because it's not Stephanie. But honestly, that's how I was programmed. I read Stephanie. The Holy Ghost, the wind, the Spirit. We look at that. So this is all of it, huh? Current of air, breeze, breath, spirit, rational soul, angel, demon. Doesn't say the cattle, but it sure did imply it. Let's see what we got here. How to be set apart. Psalm 17:7. Looks like I got there. On that day, I will set apart, but the Lord will make the distinction. The Lord makes a distinction. Okay. The Lord has set apart. Wondrously show how fearfully and wonderfully we're made. The Near East, the ancient Near East, the context, the concept of being set apart or distinguished was significant in both religious and social spheres. The Israelites, as God's chosen people, were often described as being set apart from other nations that were supposed to have kings, I guess, but Israel did not. Something about being keep separated. Let's see, how did we get here? The one use on that day, somebody was going to set apart in the land. Exodus 8:22. That's the earth. My people dwell. This doesn't sound like Israel, but it's talking about my people. Well, they did get scattered around, but not by Exodus. It might have been the Medes. Zechariah 2:11. On that day, many nations will join themselves to the Lord, and they will become my people. What do we have to wait for the third temple approval of that, or what's going on with that? When is this day many nations will join themselves to the Lord and they will become his people? He will dwell among them, and they will know that the Lord of hosts has sent me to you himself. And the Lord will take possession of Judah as his portion in the Holy Land. Now, when was this? Because a lot of people like to go to Zechariah and put it in the context of like, he's talking after a third temple's built. When this is all talking about what's coming up for the second temple, the destruction of the first temple, I'm pretty sure. That was really a big deal. Flee from the land of the north, for I have scattered you like the four winds of heaven, declares the Lord. Get up, O Zion, escape, you who dwell with the daughter of Babylon. Whoever touches you touches the apple of my eye. He did want to protect them for David's sake. Well, I'm not going to go fishing for that. I just needed to get onto this. Satan is loosed, and it's always been a group of people who want to make money by subjecting people because they believed in manifest destiny. Did Butch Cassidy and Jesse James belong to this type of group?
Attempt to annex Cuba, which became known as the Ostend Manifesto. However, this manifesto, sent to Congress in October of 1854, was drafted months after the alleged founding of the Knights of the Golden Circle, and seemingly couldn't be a cause for the founding of this society. But I digress. The Ostend Circular or Ostend Manifesto declared that the U.S. should purchase Cuba from Spain, and if they refused, the U.S. should declare war. Cuba was seen as key to expanding slaveholder control at this time, and the Ostend Manifesto was then drafted up by American ministers who were sent to Europe, including Pierre Solé, the minister to Spain, James Buchanan, the future president and then minister to Britain, and John Young Mason, the minister to France. They met at the behest of Secretary of State William Marcy, who sought to annex Cuba for the pro-democratic, pro-slavery presidency of Franklin.
And it worked. The United States had a racist government. The one-drop rule was effect in the United States. Simply look it up in Wikipedia or your favorite search engine encyclopedia at the one-drop rule. It wasn't in South Africa. It was in the United States. We don't have to like it. We can't like it. We shouldn't like it. It's true.
The larger Republic of Sonora. When the Mexican government sent numerous troops, Walker quickly retreated back to California and was indicted for violating the Neutrality Act of 1794. All
It's been a nonstop colonizing. I heard today that the East, the cities in the East, basically colonized everything in the West.
In 1860 was said to be a massive contributing factor in convincing many Southerners of the desirability of creating an independent slaveholding empire.
Remember, even the white people that were not for slaves, They didn't care if there were slave states. They just didn't want the slave states to outnumber the free states or really even to expand. But it wasn't like, oh, we don't want your cotton anymore. It kind of got forced into that by a few of their cardboard setups, like John Brown body, whose lies molding in the ground. That was a setup. He didn't, they passed out the weapons when he showed up, like they did at the Bastille in France when they supposedly stormed that. It's all a setup. It's been a setup to rewrite history. Sure, they built this.
Circle was secretive for much longer than the current narrative gives it credit for, and the reported history that we have today appears to only have occurred after incidents happened that brought the organization to national limelight. We're told the Knights of the Golden Circle implemented a policy of promoting Knights of the Columbian Star, their highest rank, to the highest levels of public office, including president. And this nearly occurred in the year 1860. We're told several members of the outgoing James Buchanan staff were the highest ranking members of the Knights of the Golden Circle, including the Secretary of War, John Floyd, and the Secretary of
Right after the war, they said they freed the slaves, but then they put them right back in the Reconstruction. What is this, that secret message?
However, the history gets even stranger. This order, the Knights of the Golden Circle, again described in the current narrative as small and without any major gains, was by 1863 in direct opposition of Congress, who had enacted a military draft for the Civil War. Many, even those in the Republican Party, were said to have denounced the draft, and further growth of the Knights of the Golden Circle is recorded at this time, having established hundreds of their castles throughout the United States. We're told by the Gettysburg Campaign in 1863, the Knights of the Golden Circle had also invaded or infiltrated South Central Pennsylvania. Thousands of
They think they're going to win. What is this, hidden gold? Gold!
there was discovered the Saddle Ridge Hoard, a well organized collection of over 1,420 gold coins with a face value of over $27,000, but an assessed current value of well over $10 million. These coins, which are still being examined by scientists
Oh,
and
yeah.
historians today, are said to date back from as early as 1847, with a majority of the coins coming from before or during the Civil War. This is the largest collection of buried gold coins ever found in the United
Liberty. Liberty. And there's embedded symbols in there. What do we got here? Oh, you need to look at this. These are found on multiple continents. Christianity swept the world. Do I have a video on these? We're going to have to look it up. Sator rotas. There's a difference. It's not the same thing. What's it doing everywhere around? Everywhere you go, you get on a plane to fly there, you get off and you go, hey, what's going on? Look, right click, right click, left click, right click.
The Sator Square is ancient, mysterious, and everywhere. The Sator Square, in brief, is a 5-line palindrome rendered in Latin of 5 words: Sator, Arapo, Tenet, Apra, and Rotas. You can read the square in 4 directions: horizontally, beginning in the top left corner, horizontally beginning in the bottom right corner, or vertically beginning in the top left corner, or again vertically beginning in the bottom right corner. That means it's a four-directional palindrome. Additionally, the words in the first and fifth lines are the same, just inverted. Same for the words in the second and fourth. The word in the third and central line is itself a palindrome. Instances of the satyr square have popped up all over Europe. Two were found during the excavation of Pompeii, the ancient Italian city buried by the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 CE. Others have been found in Italy, England, Syria, France, Portugal, and even Sweden, and have been dated from the 2nd century all the way to the
That's that's interesting. Look, this is the breakthrough. Break it down.
Scholars believe it has a Christian origin. There's a simple reason for that. If you rearrange the letters, you get something like this. This is a rearranged satyr square that sure looks like an allusion to a Christian phrase. The words above, arranged to form the shape of a cross, spell out Pater Noster in two directions. Pater Noster, of course, translates to Our Father, the opening of the Lord's Prayer.
That is the opposite of, like, they find other tokens everywhere that start out Hail Mary. But that was a cult, man.
Just decades after the execution of Jesus, since the religion originated as a sect of Judaism later.
You see, they're going to talk about Origen, Polycarp, Josephus. None of that is true. All of these people, the sheep and the goats, the wheat and the tare, went to the mountains and said, "Fall on us."
Drones were thought to be imbued with some sort of magical properties in some religious traditions. The square has often been credited with quenching fires and curing insanity. A 19th century
See what I mean? Something that could be taken as, normal has to be made weird. Now, this is a weird movie. I wondered if they were going to talk about it. Tenet.
who is communicating with the future. Arepo is the last name of the unseen Spanish art forger whose copies of two Goya paintings become blackmail fodder early in the film. The first scene in the movie takes place in an opera house where an orchestra is tuning up and chaos quickly sets in. In one sequence, guards who work for the Rotas security try to protect a Freeport, a building that's been acquired by collectors but not yet taxed. So in a sense, the Satyr Square is seeded throughout the film and today continues to mystify us. What exactly does the Satyr Square mean? What is it referring to? I believe that the film Tenet's connection of the Satyr Square with its unique understanding of time points to its possible intended meaning. Those familiar with the concept of entropy and laws of thermodynamics intuitively sense that
Okay, it's a weird movie. That is for sure. But we got to move on. Again, enjoy knowing that the Lord brought this out, and it's always been a part of my ministry, and it always will be in time. Like, go. Usually that works. Maybe I'll try this.
Welcome to There's something about some of these rocks that seems to make you think of petrified flesh, even the flesh of a petrified giant.
Salt.
Check out the video below. They call it the red crystalline rock that looks like human flesh.
Looks like a spine to me. The pattern. Yeah,
Much of the
this is the picture I liked because I found it and I showed the body parts, and I know the Lord was pleased. This is how it all started, and this is where it's got, in my mind, it has to go back to the rocks, proving that they cried out, accepting that it was all history, and that knowing that they, even when they were showing how when this class of person marries this class of person, it's married this one. The one thing I don't see is white people. I see some fairer skinned, but I don't know if I see. So there's that. What is this one? We were looking up that gang, an American adventurer and filibuster, a freebooter, unauthorized. I thought a filibuster, is that what it is named for in the government when they stand around talking? 45. This was that failed invasion of where, he got tried. They were that golden circle thing, man. Look at these famous people that were in the golden circle. Shelby, that's one of that's one of not just the Hughes, Walton, there's also Shelbys and Cobbs, Jones. Confederates. It's the people that wanted to do the white rule, manifest destiny, light on a hill, break the treaties. They don't know how to run a country anyway. It's these guys. They did it. Where's that list of famous people? Look at that guy. He's the one who shot the president, Abraham Lincoln. Ever heard of this guy? I know you did. Big time racist, gonna go, I'm gonna expose the Masons to you. No, he's not. He's one of them. I would have said it's like looking in a mirror, but maybe Theron could say that, but not me. The Sons of Liberty. These were the Sam Adams, Benedict Arnold, John Hancock, Patrick Henry. These guys, they did it. Come on. The little Boston Tea Party. It ran much deeper than that. They needed to buy officers and soldiers clothes, so they taxed the people. But that's how it all started in the Great Britain. The Sons of Liberty said no. Sure. That's how you rewrite people. Look, we saved you. Who's a true born son of the people we took over this country from? Now I just wrote a paper, Aaron Burr. Hamilton, that duel was not over only banking, but who was going to be, possibly president of they were going to found new countries, not territories, out in the West. Utah, state of Deseret. They were countries for a while. State of Franklin. You ever heard of that one? Didn't last that long, but it was a real attempt. Who were they? Political group of dissenters. They don't like dissent anymore. Protest the passage of the Stamp Act. Oh, they felt they were being taxed without their consent. I wonder how they want us to put up with this today. And here's that thing. They took over the mud flood distilleries. It said we always have brewed beer here, and they rewrite history. It's what they call fun. Did you see this?
People for their private behavior. Well, it's known as the Salem witch trials. So frankly, my fiance, who is a practicing Christian, who is in church each Sunday, she asked me to remind you of something. The difference between our club and the many churches represented in this room is that the members are honest, open, and transparent with each other. We build churches break the commandments all the time. We don't pretend otherwise.
See, there's a sex club that was opening up by a church there in Connecticut. I have a friend that was involved in it.
Steve admitted on the Chaz and AJ radio show he enjoys the swinger scene for 10 years now. And on a social media platform called Reddit, there was a now deleted review of the club. They said Steve and Jody are friendly hosts and that Steve likes to get naughty at the night with his customers.
Wow, who are these people?
So it's going to be 3 minute time frame. After everyone's been spoken for the first time, we will give you another opportunity to speak, and that time will be 2 minutes. Was that on? You can hear me? Yes.
Okay, thank you for this opportunity to speak. Oh, Tom Merrill, I live in Bristol. I'm a participant in the Riverside Church. Okay, I recently went to a prayer vigil there the other night, and the church was open while the club was open. So that was not.
They bought a sex club and they're forcing them to share the freaking parking lot. And how can they do that? It's the world we live in. It's the world we live in. Freemasons connection, of course there was. White supremacist organizations, and using the Prince Hall Freemasons and the other, we're focused on the United States. The rest of the world is being encompassed by Satan also. We're the ones being set up to be like, wow, everything will be great when we get rid of those guys. That's what it seems like. You might want to consider it. What is this? Who is this? Oh, this is when I searched my name. This is what came up. I did not make that video. You know it. This video wouldn't have gotten 600 views. I was explaining that map of what was going on, man. Let's read this Bible verse. Oh, wait, I didn't have anything on that. I said I would do it. Now, what is a black site? Following what I consider one of the most, the reset of all resets. The last 45 years spoken in Daniel after the abomination of desolation, when they tear down Jerusalem, not one stone standing on the other, because that means you can't have a sacrifice. When the sacrifice is taken away, the abomination of desolation, Jesus said, spoken of in Daniel. Daniel says there will be 1,290 years. Well, 1,000 of that is taken up during the exact 1,000 year imprisonment of Satan. Then 290, when Satan is loosed, we call it 1711 Gregorian calendar. It's from September 11, 2001. Go back 290 years, and it's 1711. So that puts us at 2011. It said, blessed are those, it continues in Daniel 12, verses 12 and 13, that blessed are those who make the last 45, the 1335. There's another 45 years after the nations of the world have been united by Satan in an ultimate deception, to where the people who thought they were Christian light on a hill and kind of winked the other way because, well, they could claim they didn't believe in evolution, but sure was nice having slaves and getting rid of all the people who owned the property, the Native Americans and the Mexicans. Get rid of them. And so after 9/11, that important date mentioned, the war on terror, the CIA set up official black sites to detain, interrogate, often torture suspects. And the host governments, some said, we're outraged, but nothing ever happened. Other countries let them do it. It was Guantanamo. You'll have to read this for yourself. It is horrific. When it gets into waterboarding, was one of the nicest things they did to these people, and they have admitted that they knew they had people after 5 weeks. Oh, this guy's got nothing, and he's still in prison, from what I understand. Black sites. There really is. They had me convinced, as a Fox News watcher, Rush Limbaugh follower, that, well, the ends justified the means. Some of these techniques were rape, sexual assault, beating, binding them in contorted stress positions, hooding, subjection to deafening noise, sleep disruption, sleep deprivation to the point of hallucination. Do we even want to know what that means? You read it sometime, if you're so called, or if you want to just accept I'm telling you the truth, you'll save yourself a lot of, But really, these guys, he had no business being in power, but there he was. Not like the moral right-hand man of the right-wing conservatives. It's Dick Cheney, and you know what his kind of people he hangs out with. In our country, we got torture memos, and they had people like Do Re Me and you saying, it's okay, because if she's against it, I'm for it. Something like that. It was something like that. Now, at first, when there was some pushback, they just retrofitted these planes and made them flying torture chambers. So I'm told this one plane would fly people. Now, where's some of the things? First mentioned 6 weeks after September 11, 2001, seeing someone being forced onto the plane. So it kind of got on the radar, was tracked, and, found out they were taking it. Later on, it says it made 51 trips to Guantanamo Bay in these 2.5 years, as well as 82 visits to Dulles International, Andrews Air Force Base, visited Air Force bases in Germany, Afghanistan, Morocco, Dubai, Jordan, Italy, Japan, Switzerland, Azerbaijan, and the Czech Republic. Get your iodine. That's what I'm saying, is that this plant that grows around here, you know, salt is important and iodine is important. I can't believe there's an iodine bush that grows out here. That's convenient. What?
Closes on the bottom. Then they just scoop the fish out of the net. Bottom draggers not only catch fish, but also destroy habitat, coral reefs, rock
Who
surfaces.
cares? The top 1% of the 1% who own 90% of the money need to make money. They have
Social complexity,
souls, maybe a spirit,
their intelligence.
and they have a brain that's like humans,
Know
and
that
they
there's something
used it
there.
for oil. They didn't have to, but it was a commodity. So why not? Right? Capitalism. I'm just really all over everybody today, right?
They look at you, they look through you, they seem to be trying to question you.
What do they have? Do they have
They don't just see you,
autism?
they see through you. They see your heart beating. They see your lungs moving. They see the blood flowing through your veins because they're seeing with their ears a picture of what you are.
Huh. So this is that Greenpeace. I know they're the bad guys, right? You know, and they probably are because they don't love Jesus, but it doesn't mean that these people, there are laws against this. The Bible warns against it.
The worst one, drift netting. Long nets up to 100 kilometers long. It's like a curtain of death hanging in the ocean. They've been outlawed since 1997, but they continue to be used. Each and every day, fishing vessels lose nets. These become ghost nets that remain in the ocean after they're lost and continue to kill forever. On average, about 40% of the fish that we buy in supermarkets or in restaurants has been caught illegally. There are 10 million fishing boats on the world's ocean right now, taking everything they can, whenever they can, wherever they can, by whatever means necessary. The fishing industry has the capacity to destroy civilization.
I know. You've heard it all before.
Water that's in your body right now was once locked up in ice, was once flowing underground. It was once in the sea, it was once in the clouds. The lifeblood of the planet. We shouldn't call it the planet Earth.
Yep.
It is the planet ocean.
Well,
heavy gear fishing, strip mining the ocean at an incredible rate. You have long lines, anywhere from 10 miles to 100 miles long.
I'm going to look up something real quick. How long drag lines empty the earth? The Evets. Water has a memory. Let's don't forget that. Huh. Dragline. Dragging the line. Wah, wah, wah. Line upon line. Order the line. Plumb line. Ooh. Now I'm getting upset. Let's see. Huh. Well, I'm going to have to, I guess I might just have to look that one up, or does somebody have that in the chat? What is that one about how long will your drag lines are destroying the earth? Oh, well, I'll have to bring it up later, but it is in there. Let's see what this one says. One, that's the line upon line, precept upon precept. Make it straight line. We are closing in on it. I guess there's going to be Sergio making a video tonight. You should check it out. Why then were you unafraid to speak against my servant Moses? So the anger of the Lord burned against them, and he departed. As the cloud lifted from above the tent, suddenly Miriam became leprous. Laban as snow. That's white as snow. Aaron turned toward her, saw she was white. He freaked out. Oh Lord, please do not hold against us this sin, because he was with her thinking, you know what, Moses, we should be considered equals. Ooh. Please, no, 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 no. And Moses is like, oh God, she's just a little crazy, Don't. And so, well, she did it. So put her out of the camp for 7 days. And she's Miriam. The horse and the rider are thrown into the sea. Hosanna, Hosanna. That was Miriam. She sang that before anybody else. And blessed be the rock. Isaiah 66:3. We read that. I really must have wanted to enforce that one. This guy again, right? So this is the world. Jaronism, Mark Sargent, they did this. This guy is John Henley or Eric Hunley. He is really coming out. He is doing some good work, but they made it easy for him not to look into flat Earth, didn't they?
Realize that would happen. Is like, okay, it's like kind of a one-off thing.
They're very vocal.
Well, I have a general rule, and this is not just flat earthers. It's just about the comments section, and it goes something like this: what commenters lack in knowledge, they make up for in certainty.
That's very true.
So, okay, so I wanted to get you on. Tell me what went down. Tell me, like, what was this whole trip, the planning, how you got involved, what?
So, almost a year ago, some videos started coming out from a mysterious new channel talking about the final experiment and saying, well, people that think the Earth is a globe and flat earthers have disagreed, but they've all said similar things. That if you go to Antarctica, if the sun circles 24 hours a day, then it cannot be flat. And so there was a lot of agreement amongst the flat Earth crowd on that. And there's lots of times that they've made their commitment to that. It's not possible. And so the guy that put,
I mean, I want to just, they filmed that in the swimming pool. It like when they make the movies, that's not real either. It looks real, doesn't it? It looks exactly like the fake. I'm on the space lab. I'm in outer space. You don't believe that it might be a ball? Wow. I know you're kidding. But these guys, they do.
Put it together was eventually announced himself as Will Duffy, a guy that's got a lot of money, became independently wealthy. And
how's that happen? It's a setup. They call in the same people that always go there. You saw it. I saw it. We lived through it like we lived through. Do you remember Thomas Crooks? Butler, Pennsylvania? All these recent things. How about that Lobrock? Pilot Lobrock killed 60 people in an airplane crash when she flew her helicopter into it. There's a lot of news. It's coming at you hot and heavy, as they say.
Any particular thing, they're a logistics company. So if you want to do a solo trek across Antarctica on skis or on a snowmobile,
they're going to make it happen for the rich people. So they got up there. Here's their excuses.
Maybe the original. And I have a time lapse of the entire flight from when we were on the ground in Chile to walking out of the plane in Antarctica. So that's how we got there. Then
how long was it? 4 hour, 5 hours?
Little over 4 hours total.
Okay,
time.
so about like East Coast to West Coast.
Yep.
Here.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Then we got off the plane and it was super.
You heard all that. It wasn't that cold. It was windy.
Specifically, and I did in the video before. I would love to have you on. I'd love to talk to you. I definitely want to hear this. And I'm not saying this is an analogy, but as an example, one of the people I interviewed was the head of the American Nazi Party, if you will. And he now works with many Israeli groups and helps people to not learn hate. Now, again, I'm not saying it's an analogous. I'm just saying that there are people who have an opinion and it's very controversial and they change their minds. And I think that's an incredibly brave and good thing to do. But I love to learn from people, like, how did you form your original conclusion? I think everybody can learn from that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Jaron Jaron has done good stuff since then. The others I have not talked to as much, so I can't speak much to
One
them.
reached out to me and offered to come on, but I replied and nothing has come out of it.
Okay.
So I don't know. I don't know what'll happen. And again, I definitely want to hear from anyone and everyone.
Yeah.
Now, to wrap things up on this one, I always like to ask, what's the one question that I should have asked you, but I neglected to?
I don't know. I'm not the one that was having, in the end, my position challenged. So maybe there's a lot of focus on the one experiment, the big experiment, but we did more. So maybe you could ask about the many other experiments we did. So I listed out 16 different experiments that we were going to try to do. A couple of them it just didn't work. Like we were trying to do some sighting of the stars for celestial navigation. It was too cloudy when we were in South America for that. But we did measure the
Wow. Okay. But I do want you to, when you, after all your Bible studies, become familiar. Let's see what is some of his popular. I don't think Amber Heard, most popular, Johnny Depp. Well, he got a lot more serious. He was there. I wouldn't mind looking at one quickly about the Thomas Crooks thing. This was an excellent one. I think I saw part of that. Gloria Steinem worked as a Playboy bunny. Some of this is some really interesting stuff, and he has a number of different channels. You might be seeing him.
I'm being told that for 2 years, more than 2 years, Jolly West was running Manson. If we're to,
especially Mark, feel is tied closer to Sirhan, and they were kind of running parallel. I mean, I think they were born a year apart. William Joseph Bryan is the great grandson or grandson of William Jennings Bryan, a very famous American orator, presidential candidate through multiple elections. He used to debate against Lincoln. This guy, he wrote the book called The Chosen Ones, which is all about how to pick juries, and also so he was writing about body language and jury interaction and all that way back when. That book is like in the 30s or like in the 40s or somewhere in there. So it's really some squiggly lines, because yes, we have, I think it's David Smith, Professor David Smith, I think definitively was working the clinic where the Manson people went. I haven't hammered the Manson angle as much personally, because I think that Jimmy Shavers is more interesting, and I think the correspondence with Sidney Gottlieb is more.
Well, I think that he woke up that it is more interesting. So here's some of the new
a lot
ones.
of the other interviews, narcotic.
Right.
Bobby Beausoleil went to Gary Hinman, who was a former roommate and friend of his, an amateur maker of mescaline and other drugs, and he bought a pretty large amount, and something was wrong with this mix of mescaline, and he was not to do in my documentary. What were these nice innocent people at Cielo and Waverly doing that they got killed? Now, of course, then that, because of the cult of the victim that comes with this, then I am, victim shaming, or I'm somehow maligning the memories of, and that's the easy way for people to avoid the uncomfortable conversation. Jay Sebring, one of the people killed at Cielo Drive, was a major drug dealer to the Stars. He was the hairdresser to the Stars, but that was a front for a very sophisticated drug dealing operation. Wojtek Frykowski, Roman Polanski's friend, who most people, that's like the least remembered footnote of if anyone even remembers his name. He was trying to corner the market on what was an early version of MDA or ecstasy, MDMA, and he would have been the first distributor of it in Hollywood through a series of Canadian criminals who gave him this. Abigail Folger, the heiress to the Folger coffee fortune, Frykowski was just like a leech and a layabout, a guy who couldn't get a job in Hollywood, who really just a total fuck up. And his girlfriend basically financed his drug dealing operation. And it comes down again to sheer banality. Wojtek Frykowski made a deal with Tex Watson and Linda Kasabian, who Linda Kasabian had stolen some money from her ex-husband's friend, Charlie Melton, like $5,000. And they put some of that money into buying or ordering MDA from Wojtek Frykowski.
So you kind of get the idea how it's always going to be about the drugs. It was about the China. It was about you forced us to buy heroin. Because in every society, there are going to be those people who want, yeah, well, let's get some heroin.
This lectures I've given. This is an FBI report saying that drugs were suspected of being sent from Southampton in England to Roman Polanski and Wojtek Frykowski at Cielo Drive. This is an FBI report saying that. Why? This is the first time this has been printed. Why? Why are, this is a blatant indication that the authorities.
So I think that Eric Hunley is doing some good work, but it's like, I don't want you to be afraid of anything except being blotted out of the book of life. But there's plenty that you could be worried about. They weren't only confiscating gold in 1933. The decorticator was invented, and what it did was made hemp into nice dresses, ropes. It would have blown cotton away. It would have helped everyone, except, well, it couldn't happen. Where's that guy talking about it? It was the publisher of the it was William Randolph Hearst. Give me un momento, because you're going to want to. I played this for someone earlier today, so it should be at the close. I'm looking through my history. Let's see. Wow. The Transfermian Wars, that came out today. I watched that thing. It's been a while. Give it 1 second. Otherwise, I'm not going to keep fighting it. But it was basically a good example of how they steal the money. Is this
leading to popular mechanics calling cannabis the new
Thank
billion-dollar
you for sticking around.
Hemp had already been superior in that it takes significantly less time to grow than trees. But now, with production simplified by the decorticator, it was really no contest whatsoever. This didn't sit well with publisher and industrialist William Randolph Hearst, who, aside from owning much of the media at this time, also owned the paper factories on which his newspapers were printed.
So the white people in power, the Hearst, he might as well be one of those gold mining, gold king He owned the factories for the newspapers. He owned the propaganda machine, and he was making money in. Why interrupt it with hemp? They were going to target hemp because it's a sacred herb for a lot of Christians and other religions. But did you catch it? The hemp is good. This was invented and it could have changed the world.
Machine called the decorticator allowed hemp fibers to be stripped from the plant at a far more efficient rate, leading to popular mechanics calling cannabis the new billion-dollar crop. Hemp had already been superior in that it takes significantly less time to grow than trees. But now, with production simplified by the decorticator, it was really no contest whatsoever. This didn't sit well with publisher and industrialist William Randolph Hearst, who, aside from owning much of the media at this time, also owned the paper factories on which his newspapers were printed. Soon,
Wow, you know what? I am going to back it up a few seconds. I saw one of the sub headlines.
with publisher and industrialist William Randolph Hearst,
I want to point out
who,
to you.
aside from owning
Look, was Dotson doing mud flood research? Page 4A, Dotson looks at historic cemeteries. That sounds like something a mud flooder would do.
owning much of the media at this time, also owned the paper factories on which his newspapers were printed. Soon, he began publishing propaganda pieces, insisting that Mexican immigrants who smoked cannabis violently raped women. As society had grown familiar with cannabis and its many benefits, Hearst chose to use the term marijuana, which had, up until this point, only been used to describe a wild Mexican variety of tobacco completely unrelated to cannabis. Soon, the dangers of this
Still, though, I want some of that wild Mexican tobacco.
new supposed threat had alarmed American society.
Yes, I'd be willing to pay you if you could find some.
A small church group produced a morality tale entitled Tell Your Children about this new drug that supposedly made its users turn violent.
You think that was part of the propaganda? They did it for the money.
In 1938, he appointed a commission to investigate the new bill, later creating the LaGuardia Committee to oppose Anslinger's draconian campaign against cannabis. The committee was unsuccessful, and in 1942, cannabis was officially removed from medical texts. That same year, the U.S. Department of Agriculture and even the Army themselves urged farmers to grow hemp, releasing a propaganda film of their own, Hemp for Victory, talking about the importance of the crop.
This is hemp seed. Be careful how you use it. For to grow hemp legally, you must have a federal registration and tax stamp. This is provided for in your contract. Ask your AAA committeeman or your county agent about it. Don't forget.
Soon, with World War II in full swing, tax stamps were issued to allow the plant to be grown. But this change of heart was short-lived, and cannabis arrests continued, increasing during
Hey, they're arresting the movie stars. What?
grown familiar with cannabis and its many benefits, Hearst chose to use the term marijuana.
Oh, I already had that one. I guess I already had it pulled up, huh? So, oh, it looks like we've wrapped it up. The reason I looked up that guy's name, Luis Osuna, was I was at the local antique store the other day, and where I got that copper float stone that I have soaking in acid, and I got a maraca. Remember I showed you the guy's name? I looked him up. He's famous, man. not like in America, but in Venezuela. Well, actually, in Eastern Venezuela, he's got a nationalistic dance company. It's everything, music, everything, dance school, folk dances, youth ballet, and he makes maracas. How about that? Wonder what they got going there in Venezuela. All we hear about it is they got gang members and that they're just, they're so far behind they don't even have a real government. What are these guys pretending that they have a government? Well, they're the United Nations. I guess everybody puts up with the little cartels. I guess the United States puts up with the mafia. Well, anyway, man, I had a lot of tabs and they were, they had to go so I could get some fresh time. It's a flat earth nation. The golden age is past because the mud flood was Armageddon. Me and my friends are never going to tell you anything else. It's not what we're called to do. It's not what we've been doing. We're trying to refine this. We don't want our names blotted out. We don't want Jesus to say he never knew us. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho, aloha. Arrivederci. Ciao. Sayonara. Auf Wiedersehen. Nakamain. Adios. That's just how I like